blossom.
Judy, wait! Wait!
The movie opens with a pretty woman in her early 30s reading Romeo and Juliet to her students. She's engrossed in the book and her eyes shine when she gets to the romantic parts. Her name's Julie and her favorite story of all time is Romeo and Juliet. Sadly for her, her elementary school students aren't as engrossed as she is in the story. Julie is an English teacher with a passion for literature. She loves books and romantic stories, and her dream is to have a passionate romance, an extraordinary bond that forges a new destiny for her. She thinks she's about to find out what it means to be loved deeply by her boyfriend, Brandon. They have been dating for years, and Julie loves him very much. After years together, she's hopeful that he's finally going to propose to her during their trip to Verona, Italy. She tells her best friend, Rob, that she's sure Brandon is going to pop the question. Rob is more sardonic than Julie, and he thinks she romanticizes life too much. Her love for Romeo and Juliet makes her see the world through rose-colored glasses. He knows Brandon, and he bets that Julie is wrong about his intentions, especially after Julie tells him Brandon has been acting strange lately. Julie goes out to have dinner with Brandon and talks about their trip. Verona is the place where Romeo and Juliet's love story took place. There's a big part of the tourism in the city that relates to Shakespeare's infamous play, and Julie prepared an itinerary with all the places she wants to go. Julie is very organized and a bit controlling. She shows Brandon the itinerary with the places and even the time they are going to spend in each location, to make the most of the trip. As she talks nonstop, Brandon looks through the itinerary and starts freaking out. He still loves Julie, but it's not the same as when they started. Their relationship is uneventful and boring. Julie is a great person, hardworking and passionate, but he's not sure if he wants to spend the rest of his life with her. They have different ambitions and passions in life. The trip to Verona shows it clearly. Brandon would rather be spontaneous and go wherever they want while Julie has everything scheduled. To make things worse, he knows Julie is expecting a proposal in the city of her dreams. It would be the perfect place for her. Brandon isn't ready. He interrupts Julie's babbling and tells her their relationship isn't working anymore. He thinks she's great and he appreciates the time they spent together, but he wants to have a break to clear the fog in his mind. He wants to be 100% sure that he's meant to be with her. Julie is shocked. She had no idea Brandon was falling out of love with her. Brandon tells her to go to Verona and have fun. During the days they are going to be apart, Brandon is going to think about their relationship. Julie keeps her tears at bay, not willing to break down in front of Brandon. She leaves him with no promises that she's going to wait for him. She's sad and disappointed. She thought he was going to propose and he breaks up with her. Now she has a trip she was looking forward to and she doesn't feel as excited as before. Rob tells her to go and have fun in Verona. It's the vacation of her dreams and she shouldn't waste it moping about Brandon. His words give Julie the motivation she needs to move on. She decides that she is going to have the best time of her life in Verona, no matter what. She even rents a villa across from Juliet's house and statue. Unbeknownst to her, Rob made a bet with his husband that Brandon was going to break up with Julie. Their relationship wasn't great, and only Julie seemed to not realize it. Julie gets ready for her trip. She's excited again about it and can't wait to arrive in Verona. Fate isn't on her side. Her flight is delayed and she has to wait hours before boarding. On the plane, children are making a lot of noise and kicking her chair. She spills wine on her white clothes, and then her luggage is lost. Julie is at her wit's end. Tired, hungry, and dirty, she buys a corny sweatshirt at the airport and takes an Uber to go to the villa. The driver drives like a crazy person and almost gives Julie a heart attack. When she finally arrives in the villa, she's shaking and nervous. Adding insult to injury, the villa is nothing like it was described on the website. There are a bunch of cats inside and graffiti on the walls. Skeptically, Julie finds her villa and opens the door. Inside it's not bad. The place has antique architecture and decoration. Not only that, but the view from Juliet's balcony is amazing. Julie instantly falls in love. While she's wandering the room, a half-naked man suddenly appears. He's tall, built like a brick house, and handsome. He's drinking wine. They both shout at each other, and the man spills his drink. He asks what she's doing in his villa and she replies that she rented the place for the week. The problem is that he did too. His name's Charlie and he's a British wine taster. He's in Verona to work. There's a wine exposition that he has to go to every year, and he always rents the villa because it's close to the venue. Julie can't believe her bad luck. She has planned for that trip for ages and now everything is falling apart. Her life is a mess. She lost her boyfriend and her luggage. She has no clothes to wear except for a corny sweatshirt. She's tired and cranky, desperate to sleep. There's no way she's going to give up her villa. She tells Charlie that he must be the one that made the mistake, and he sarcastically replies that he's going to grab his things and leave. They go back and forth with their argument until Julie calls the landlord, Silvio. It goes to voicemail. Charlie tells her to give up because he has rented the villa for years and he never even met Silvio. Julie is almost breaking down in front of a stranger. Everything is conspiring against her and she's sick of it. She asks if she can sleep there for a night and he lets her sleep on the couch. Charlie is a no-nonsense kind of man. He doesn't care for Julie and her situation. He has too much in his place to worry about other people. He's quite cynical and obnoxious, treating Julie as if she's dirt beneath his feet. He thinks she's a pathetic American tourist not worth his time. The following day, Silvio appears and explains the situation to them. It was a mistake his mistress made and ended up renting to both of them. He suggests they share the villa for the week and mentions that it must be fate working in their favor. Neither Charlie nor Julie are happy about it. When Silvio leaves, Julia starts sobbing about her situation. She was supposed to be in Verona forgetting about her issues, not reliving them. Now she has no place to stay because the city is packed and Charlie arrived at the villa first. Charlie is surprised that Julie seems so affected. He's also uncomfortable because he doesn't know how to deal with feelings. He tries to awkwardly comfort her, saying that she can stay at the villa and that they probably won't even see each other much. He stays out the entire day for the exposition anyway, and will only be in the villa in the evening. They decide to divide the villa and Julie stays in the living room and he stays in the bedroom. It's not the perfect solution, but it's better than nothing. Julie heartbrokenly thanks him and all Charlie wants to do is run away from the crying woman. After solving the problem with Charlie, Julie takes a deep breath and calms herself down. Despite the awful issue of sharing a villa with a stranger, she's still in Verona. It's the place she always dreamed of going to and she's not going to waste the chance to explore everything. With her itinerary in hand, she goes sightseeing. The first stop is, of course, Juliet's statue and house. The problem is that there are so many tourists wandering around that Julie can barely take a proper picture. She also bumps into someone and ice cream falls on her itinerary. After taking bad pictures with Juliet, she runs to grab the tourist bus to go around Verona. She arrives late and watches the bus leaving her behind. She's in the middle of the road and almost gets hit. Her itinerary is a mess and she throws it away in anger. It seems as if fate is playing with her and she's not enjoying it. When she goes back home tired and feeling horrible, she sees Charlie there tasting wine. Julie is a mess. She's wearing the same clothes, sweaty and hot. The air conditioning doesn't work in the villa, as Charlie jocosely points out. Julie is ready for that day to be over. Not only that, but Brandon also sends her a voicemail trying to talk to her and Charlie overhears. He figures out it's an ex calling to make amends and suggests she leaves him hanging. That way he will wonder what she's doing and if she's having fun without him. Julie begrudgingly does as Charlie says, despite promising herself that she's done with Brandon. Charlie tells her that she's making a good choice because there's nothing worse than going back to an ex. After his wise advice, Julie wonders why he's alone in a romantic city if he's so knowledgeable about relationships. He explains that he's only there for work. His job is tasting wine and choosing the correct vineyard for his company to invest in. He loves wine and writing about it, though he thinks it's a rather tiresome job. Julie thinks so too. She thinks his job is passionless and Charlie quickly retorts that passion is overrated. Ironically, he says that but always stays in such a romantic villa. Julie wonders if he ever took a tour in Verona and he says he didn't. He also makes fun of her sweatshirt, much to her embarrassment. They go back and forth with Charlie making fun of Julie until she opens the window because it's too hot inside. A bunch of cats start entering the villa and Charlie freaks out. He's allergic to cats and his face starts getting rashes. Julie quickly puts the cats away and closes the window again while Charlie takes medicine. He's mad at her, even though she had no idea he would be allergic. He angrily tells her to stay away from him and goes to his bedroom like a child throwing a tantrum. Later on, when Charlie isn't at the villa anymore, Julie calls Rob to complain about him. She tells him Charlie is sarcastic and petty, though he's quite handsome too. She doesn't understand why he hates her for no reason. Rob tells her to stop being a weakling and do something about the situation. Julie always lets people walk all over her and it's about time she stops. Julie agrees with Rob and she has an idea to make Charlie leave the villa for her. She's going to make his life miserable until he gives up and moves. The only problem with this plan is that Charlie can be as petty as she is. The first thing Julie does the next day is go to a market to buy olives. She puts the olives all over Charlie while he's sleeping and opens the window for the neighborhood cats to enter. They all go straight to Charlie's bedroom, much to Julie's delight. When Charlie wakes up, he almost has a heart attack when he sees the cats all over him and his bed. He is pissed at Julie and for good reason. He has rashes all over his face and body. His hands are swollen and painful because of the allergy. Julie pretends she's innocent, but deep inside she's laughing at his grumpy mood. Charlie decides if she wants war, he's going to give it to her. He acts as if he's fine, and he's even impressed when she explains what she did to lure the cats to the house. Julie gets nervous when her plan epically fails and Charlie promises retaliation. He offers her some coffee and explains that in ancient history, Romans toasted their enemies before going to war. After drinking his coffee in one gulp, he leaves to go to work, but not before threatening Julie. When he opens the door to leave like a boss, the door hits his face and Julie chokes on laughter. Charlie acts unaffected and leaves. Sadly for Julie, he's offered the chance to get revenge on the cats when a delivery man brings her lost bags. He's coming upstairs when Charlie stops him and asks if the luggage belongs to Julie. The man confirms it. Charlie gives him a sob story about how Julie had a mental breakdown and was sent to an asylum. He informs the man that her clothes are to be donated since she isn't there anymore. Later on, Julie calls the flight company looking for her bags and they tell her the clothes were donated to an orphanage. When they explain the reason why, she knows right away that it was Charlie. She can't believe he would mess with her clothes. She's so angry that she's ready to step up on her plans. The first thing she does is go out to buy a whole new wardrobe. When she's dressed to the nines and ready to ruin Charlie's life, she goes home and puts glue on the locks. She calls Silvio to tell him that the door lock is jammed and asks him to change it. When Charlie arrives at the villa, he can't open the door. He decides to climb the balcony, but it doesn't work so well. Julie watches the whole situation while eating a delicious cake. She has a front row seat to Charlie hanging from the balcony and desperately asking for help. She does help him by calling the police to report an invasion. Minutes later, the police arrive and catch Charlie trying to break into the villa. Julie laughs and takes a picture of him hanging. Charlie is arrested and has to wait a few hours to be released. He's annoyed and tired. Most of all, he feels humiliated. Back at the villa, Julie is having the time of her life when Charlie arrives with a new key. He's wet from the rain and not looking happy. She innocently wonders if something is wrong and he informs her that he spent the night in the police station with a bunch of weirdos. Julie pretends she knows nothing about it and says that maybe it's time for him to leave. Charlie would never let her win their unspoken war. He's too proud to do that. He creepily tells her that he can do it all week and wonders if she can too. His psychological torture works for Julie. She's afraid of going to sleep and him jumping her in the middle of the night. The next morning, everything seems fine. Julie has a false sense of security when she leaves the villa. She thinks Charlie had given up, despite his ominous words the night before. When she's walking out of the villa, people seem to recognize her by name and point fingers at her. Confused, Julie quickly goes to the courtyard and finds out that there are pictures of her there along with pages from her journal. She wrote a lot about her relationship with Brandon and everyone knows he broke up with her. People feel sorry for her and give her words of condolence as she passes. Julie can't believe Charlie would stoop so low. She goes back to the villa to question him and he feels bad. He apologizes to her and tells her he can't do it anymore. The situation escalated more than he expected and he almost lost his job after being arrested. He wants a truce. He's cooking something that smells delicious and offers it to Julie. She also feels sorry for almost making him lose his job, so she accepts. In her mind, they're even. After she accepts his invitation to eat, she goes to change her clothes and puts on a beautiful gold dress that fits her perfectly. Charlie is stunned when he sees her dressed up. She looks gorgeous and his heart flutters at the sight of her. Charlie put up a beautiful table for them and it's romantic. Julie's impressed with his talent not only for wines but for food too. The dish smells delicious. Charlie pours them wine and Julie changes their glasses, afraid that he poisoned her. At his pointed look, she decides to change back, remembering their truce. She starts eating and compliments Charlie for his amazing cooking. It's delicious. As she's chewing, she notices that Charlie is smirking. That raises flags in her mind. She asks what she's eating and he explains that's a typical dish in Verona that is made with horse meat. Immediately, Julie spits the food and almost throws up. Charlie enjoys her reaction immensely, thinking it's another point for him. Julie is so angry he made her eat horse meat that she throws the plate at his head. After that, they start a food fight, yelling at each other the whole time. The police are called again. Julie and Charlie are properly chastised, especially because it's the second time Charlie has had issues with the police in a matter of days. After the police leave, they sit together on the couch and Charlie chooses a wine to apologize to Julie again. They sit comfortably together and talk about the evening. Julie has a piece of pasta stuck to her hair and Charlie takes it off for her. He explains that he lied about the dish and it wasn't horse meat. He wanted to mess with her, that's why he lied. He apologizes for real this time for the whole mess and explains that he's usually a moron. Julie agrees with him. They move to the balcony to talk more while admiring the evening sky. Julie thanks him for sharing the villa with her and says that he's a good guy, despite their initial disagreement. She also thinks he's a closet romantic because he always chooses to stay at the villa, even though he has more options in the city. He disagrees with her, not willing to admit that he thinks the villa is beautiful. His phone rings and it's his coworker offering him to stay in his room at the best hotel in Verona. Charlie agrees and informs Julie of the situation. He looks reluctant to leave after getting to know Julie better. Julie is also sad that he's going to go. Charlie proposes a toast and says that he had a lot of fun with her. Julie agrees, pointing out that she could have fun without planning anything. Charlie replies that she's weird just like him, and it's the most romantic thing Julie ever heard. That's what she always wanted, a person to share her weirdness with. Before Charlie leaves, they go around town talking some more. She thinks his job is nice and romantic, tasting wine in Italy, and he agrees to a certain extent. Tasting wine and traveling is amazing, but working at his cubicle back in London isn't. He sardonically calls it his practice coffin. Julie wonders why he doesn't change jobs if he doesn't like it, but Charlie is a rational person. He thinks about the money and the benefits, not his life quality. If he could choose anything to do for the rest of his life, though, he would buy a small vineyard in Tuscany to spend the rest of his days. As for Julie, she loves what she does. Teaching the kids to love literature is her passion, and she doesn't mind that they aren't interested right off the bat. It surprises Charlie that she loves her job so much, no matter the hardships. Her eyes brighten when she talks about the kids she teaches, and he's amazed by her beauty. They go to a fountain and Julie makes a wish. Charlie thinks she's wasting money, but she doesn't care. When he asks what she wished for, she says that she's only going to tell him if he goes somewhere with her. They go back to Juliet's statue and Julie explains that it's tradition to hold Juliet's right breast and make a wish. Charlie scoffs at the weird tradition, but after much insistence, he does as she asks. She puts her hand on top of his and they stare deeply into each other's eyes. They don't know how or when, but they fell for each other. When they go back to the villa, Charlie is drunk, so Julie offers the couch for him. She goes to sleep but can't. Her mind is too engrossed in her dinner with Charlie, followed by a nice stroll around Verona and the wish. She's so happy she can't stop smiling. Julie wants to invest in Charlie, even if it's for the few days they have left in the capital of love. She wakes up bright and early the following day, organizes the villa, and prepares a day filled with fun activities for them. When Charlie wakes, she invites him on an adventure and he accepts. They go on a tour in Verona, something that Charlie has never done before. Julie takes him to the Juliet Club, where people reply to letters sent to Juliet. Then, she takes him all over Verona, and they talk a lot about themselves. Juliet is an only child and her parents are happily married. She always romanticized love and relationships, and her dream was to have a relationship like her parents. She thought she would get it eventually, but ended up settling with Brandon. As for Charlie, he has 4 siblings, and his parents are separated. He has a cynical view of love and doesn't believe in fate. He thinks people need to work for things in life. They go watch the sunset and eat the food Julie brought, and as they do it, Julie holds Charlie's hand. They stare softly into each other's eyes. Charlie is enchanted by Julie, and Julie is infatuated with Charlie. After their first impression, it's obvious that they complement each other. Julie goes with Charlie to the vineyard he's visiting for the exposition and she's amazed by the beautiful place. Charlie explains that he wants to buy the place because they are going bankrupt. The plan is to buy it and sell the wine at a low cost. The vineyard owner approaches them and Charlie introduces him to Julie. When Charlie steps away to talk to a prospect, the owner offers to take Julie on a tour around the vineyard. He tells her the story of his family and that the vineyard has been the pride of his family for generations. He doesn't want to sell it to Charlie's company, but he doesn't see any other way. Julie disagrees with him. She thinks he should take the risk and not sell it. As they talk, Julie convinces the man not to sell, much to Charlie's chagrin. He isn't upset with her, because he didn't think it was fair to buy the vineyard at such a low cost, but it's still his job. Charlie decides to forget about it for a moment and asks Julie to dance. They dance for a moment, and when they are almost kissing, Charlie steps back. He apologizes and says that he can't kiss her. Julie feels the sting of rejection, but she saves face. She tells him that it's fine, but the rest of the evening is awkward between them. When they return to the villa so Charlie can grab his things, Charlie tries to explain something to Julie. Before he can, though, they hear an obnoxious voice behind them. When they turn, there's a blonde, thin woman there smiling at Charlie. She approaches him and kisses him, saying she missed him a lot. The pieces fall into place and Julie understands Charlie's hesitancy. He's in a relationship with the blonde. Julie puts up a wall between them and talks politely to the woman. The woman's name's Cassie. She used to be a model, but now she works in fashion. She looks down on Julie when Charlie explains what happened for them to share the villa. She snidely tells Julie that she never understood why Charlie always stayed at that dump. Cassie isn't trying to be mean, but she is. Charlie asks why she's there since they had apparently broken up. But Cassie doesn't think so. She thinks they only had a minor disagreement. She tells Julie that they were on a break, but now they are engaged. She has a beautiful diamond ring on her slender finger, and that breaks Julie's heart. It's painful to know that she was played again. She thought Charlie was different, that he liked her, but looking at Cassie she realizes she isn't even in his league. Cassie looks like a model, and while Julie is pretty, she doesn't think she's as pretty as Cassie. It makes her feel bad. She decides to leave the situation before she hurts herself more and says goodbye to Charlie. To her surprise, Charlie goes after her to explain the situation. Julie doesn't want to hear any excuses. It's obvious to her that week didn't mean anything to either one of them. She's lying, of course, because the week she spent with Charlie was amazing. She felt alive. Sadly, he has a fiancé. Before she leaves again, she tells him that she doesn't want to have any sort of contact with him anymore. Charlie watches her leave with sad eyes. What he didn't tell Julie is that his relationship with Cassie was horrible. She left him to go to New York and never even called him. After spending time with Julie, he realized that he deserves better than Cassie. She only thinks about herself, while Julie is the opposite. When he and Cassie go to his new hotel room, Cassie points out that Julie has a crush on Charlie and it was cute to see. It hurts Charlie's heart that Cassie noticed it and that Julie was probably sad. Cassie can't stop talking about herself, but Charlie doesn't even hear. All he can think about is Julie and how she is feeling. Back at the villa, Julie also has a surprise. She's going through the pictures she took of Charlie. The next day, she's sleeping when someone knocks on the door. Her heart jumps in her chest when she thinks it's Charlie. Sadly for her, it's Brandon. He tells her that the break made him realize that he still wants to be with her. They go out to talk, but nothing he says makes her happy. She realizes that her relationship with Brandon is truly over and that he only wants to settle with her because it's easy. Later on, Brandon wants to make a surprise for Julie and takes her to a fancy restaurant. There they meet Cassie and Charlie, and a clueless Cassie invites them to join their dinner. It's a very uncomfortable dinner, especially because Charlie isn't happy that Brandon is there. He and Julie passive-aggressively compare their dates, and Julie starts getting drunk. Brandon and Cassie don't understand why they are acting so weird. When Brandon realizes that Julie is too drunk, he decides to take her back to the villa. Charlie watches them leave with a heavy heart. He doesn't want Julie to go back to Brandon. He doesn't want to be with Cassie anymore. Watching Julie walk away again makes Charlie snap. He tells Cassie that he doesn't want to be with her anymore. She isn't too sad about it, only disappointed. Charlie leaves and goes after Julie, not knowing that Brandon has another surprise for her. In front of Juliet's statue, Brandon decides to propose to Julie. It's the perfect place, one she dreamed about for years, but it's not the perfect time. She doesn't feel anything for Brandon anymore. All she can think about is Charlie with Cassie. It isn't fair to Brandon, so she says no, much to his surprise. Before she says no, though, Charlie arrives and sees Brandon on his knee proposing. He thinks he's too late and leaves. The following day, Julie is ready to go back home. She's feeling sad that she's leaving. While she's at the villa grabbing her things, she hears Charlie quoting Romeo's famous lines to Juliet. She can't believe her eyes. It's the best confession someone could ever give her. She goes down to meet him, and he finally tells her that he fell in love with her. He thinks he's too late because of Brandon, but with tears in her eyes, Julie shows that she didn't accept the proposal. Charlie tells Julie that he started to believe in fate, but that he thinks they all have the chance to choose what path they want to follow. He chooses her. They finally kiss in front of Juliet's statue, where both of them made a wish the night before. It's unknown what they wished for, but what they got is everlasting love and passion for the rest of their days in the capital of love.